The massive dome of the Galactic Council stretched across the horizon, its crystalline surface reflecting the light of 3 suns. Inside, representatives from 1,000 worlds debated, formed alliances, and occasionally decided the fate of entire species. Today, they discussed Earth. Earth remains classified as Category D, announced Minho, the blue-skinned data specialist. His delicate fingers danced across the holographic display, bringing up images of human cities, primitive aircraft, and ground vehicles. Their technology is crude. Their weapons rely on chemical propellants and basic atomic fission. They have barely touched their lunar surface and have sent only rudimentary probes beyond their own system. The council chamber hummed with dismissive murmurs. Category D planets were hardly worth notice, developing worlds that posed no threat and offered little value beyond their natural resources. Such planets typically receive minimal monitoring until they achieve faster-than-light travel, the universal benchmark for galactic recognition. Commander Tahoe of the Doran Empire stood at his designated platform, his scaled skin shimmering under the chamber lights. His empire had been expanding for centuries, methodically absorbing neighboring systems through a combination of diplomacy, economic pressure, and, when necessary, military force. "The Sol system borders our new territories," Tahoe stated, his voice carrying effortlessly across the chamber. "We request formal rights to integrate Earth into the Empire as a protectorate." The request was a mere formality. No one opposed the Dorans taking responsibility for yet another primitive world. Earth would gain protection and eventually technological advancement, while the Dorans would gain resources and another populated planet in their sphere of influence. "Permission granted," declared the council elder, a being so ancient that few remembered her original species. "Standard protocols apply. Minimal disruption to their development, gradual introduction to galactic society." Tahoe bowed slightly. The Empire appreciates the Council's wisdom. Later, aboard the Imperial vessel Sunlight, Tahoe reviewed the mission with growing frustration. Leading first contact with a Category D planet was typically assigned to junior diplomats or ambitious nobles seeking easy glory. For a decorated military commander like himself, it felt like a demotion. "Display Earth intelligence reports," he commanded. The ship's AI complied immediately, projecting detailed images of Earth's cities, military bases, and orbital structures. Tahoe's second-in-command, Juwu, studied the projections with a professional eye. "Their technology appears even more primitive than reported," she observed. "Their most advanced weapons could barely scratch our secondary shields. Their communication systems rely on electromagnetic radiation at speeds that would make interstellar contact impractical." "Exactly why this assignment is beneath us," Tahoe replied, unable to hide his irritation. "We should be leading the campaign in the Vega Quadrant, not babysitting primitives." "The Emperor's orders were specific," Juwu reminded him. "The humans have an unusual number of subspecies and cultural variations for a single world. Their psychological profiles suggest both exceptional creativity and alarming unpredictability. The Emperor wants an experienced commander to oversee first contact." Tahoe waved dismissively. "Unpredictability is meaningless without capability. What can they possibly do against a Doran diplomatic cruiser? Our vessel could eliminate their entire orbital defense network within minutes if necessary." The journey to Earth took 3 standard days, even with the Doran's advanced drive technology. Tahoe spent the time studying human languages and customs, finding them chaotic and inefficient. They had no unified planetary government, instead dividing themselves into nearly 200 separate political entities. Their resources were unevenly distributed, and many of their conflicts stemmed from this imbalance. "Approaching Earth orbital space," announced the navigation officer. Tahoe straightened in his command chair. "Begin standard approach protocol. Activate translators and prepare the diplomatic package." The ship decelerated smoothly into Earth's solar system, passing the gas giants and rocky inner planets. As they approached Earth, the sensors began collecting data, comparing it to the Council's records. "Commander," said the sensor operator, her voice carrying a note of confusion. "I'm detecting energy signatures that don't match our intelligence reports." Tahoe moved to her station. "Explain." There are scattered power sources in Earth orbit and on their moon that exceed Category D technology by several development cycles. The patterns suggest advanced fusion or possibly early quantum containment." "Impossible," Tahoe stated flatly. "The Council's last assessment was less than 10 standard years ago. No species develops that quickly." "The signatures are there, Commander," the operator insisted, highlighting the anomalies. Tahoe frowned. Could they be non-human? Perhaps visitors from another civilization. The energy patterns are integrated with human infrastructure. Before Tahoe could investigate further, the communications officer announced, "Commander, we're receiving a transmission from Earth. They're using standard galactic communication protocols." The bridge fell silent. Category D planets shouldn't possess knowledge of galactic protocols. "Display," Tahoe ordered, his mind racing through possibilities. Had there been a security breach in the Council? Had another species been secretly contacting Earth? Or had the Doran's intelligence been catastrophically wrong? The main screen flickered, and the image of a human appeared. He wore a simple dark uniform with minimal decorations and had a calm, measured expression that betrayed no surprise at communicating with an alien species. "Greetings to the approaching vessel," the human said in perfect galactic standard. "This is Admiral Sunwoo of Earth Space Defense. We've been tracking your approach since you entered our system. Welcome to Earth." Tahoe felt a cold sensation along his spine. This was not the reaction of a primitive species experiencing first contact. There was no panic, no awe, no frantic governmental debates being broadcast on open channels. Instead, this human spoke with the comfortable authority of someone who had dealt with aliens before. "This is Commander Tahoe of the Doran Empire," he replied carefully. "We come under the authority of the Galactic Council to establish formal relations with Earth." Admiral Sunwoo smiled slightly. "We would be pleased to discuss formal relations. Perhaps you would join us at our lunar facility for negotiations. It would be more comfortable than communicating by transmission." Their lunar facility. According to Council records, humans had abandoned their moon after a brief period of exploration decades ago. "We will prepare a delegation," Tahoe agreed, signaling for the transmission to be muted. He turned to his officers, all of whom shared his confusion and growing concern. "Something is very wrong," he said quietly. "Either the Council's intelligence is completely inaccurate, or the humans have been deliberately hiding their true capabilities." Either possibility was troubling. But as a Doran commander, Tahoe knew that the most dangerous moments often came when expectations collided with reality. As he prepared to meet these surprisingly sophisticated primitives, he couldn't shake the feeling that Earth's reputation for being defenseless might be the greatest deception of all. The Doran shuttle descended toward the lunar surface, its smooth hull gleaming in the harsh sunlight. Through the viewports, Commander Tahoe observed what should have been impossible. Instead of the barren, cratered landscape described in Council records, large sections of the moon had been transformed. Transparent domes covered vast areas, under which green parks and tall buildings were clearly visible. Metal structures stretched across craters, and vehicles moved along elevated pathways connecting different settlements. "This doesn't make sense," Juwu said quietly. The Council's last survey showed only abandoned equipment and footprints from their early explorations. Tahoe nodded, his expression grim. "Either the Council has been deliberately misleading us, or the humans have achieved a rate of development previously thought impossible." The shuttle approached a circular landing pad extending from the largest dome. As they touched down, Tahoe noted defense systems subtly integrated into the surrounding structures, nothing aggressive, but positioned for optimal coverage of the landing area. "Maintain alert status," he instructed his security team. "But remember, this is still a diplomatic mission. No weapons unless I give the command." The airlock cycled, and the Doran delegation stepped onto Earth's moon. They were met by a small group of humans led by Admiral Sunwoo. In person, the Admiral was tall for a human but still considerably shorter than the Dorans. His calm demeanor remained unchanged as he offered a slight bow. "Commander Taiho, welcome to Armstrong Base. We're honored to receive representatives from the Doran Empire and the Galactic Council." Taiho returned the gesture. "Thank you for your hospitality, Admiral. I must admit, your lunar colony is unexpected." A flicker of amusement crossed Sun Wu's face. "Yes, I imagine your intelligence suggested we had barely set foot on our moon. Please, follow me. We've prepared a more comfortable setting for our discussions." As they walked through the base, Taiho's trained eye cataloged everything. The technology was advanced, not quite matching Doran standards, but far beyond what a Category D civilization should possess. Most puzzling was the apparent age of the facility. The wear patterns on walkways, the established nature of the gardens, the comfortable way humans moved through the habitat. This was not a recent construction. They entered a conference room with a large window overlooking the lunar landscape. Earth hung in the black sky, blue and serene. "How long has this base existed?" Taiho asked directly once they were seated. Admiral Sun Wu smiled. "Officially, it was established 23 years ago as an international research station. Unofficially, considerably longer." Jiwu leaned forward. "Why would Earth hide its technological progress from the galaxy?" "Caution," Sun Wu replied simply. "We detected our first alien signals almost a century ago. Instead of broadcasting our discovery, our leaders chose to listen and learn. We intercepted enough to understand that new civilizations are categorized, judged for their potential value or threat." Taiho felt a chill. The humans had been monitoring galactic communications without anyone realizing it. "When did you break the encryption on Council transmissions?" he asked. 42 years ago, Sun Wu answered. "Though we still miss portions of the higher security channels." The implications were staggering. Humans had been aware of galactic society for generations while deliberately maintaining the appearance of isolation. "You understand why this is concerning," Taiho said carefully. "Secret surveillance of Council communications violates multiple protocols. Protocols that apply to member worlds," countered Sun Wu. "Earth has never been invited to join the Council, nor have we signed any agreements limiting our actions. We've simply been cautious neighbors." A human aide approached and whispered something to Sun Wu. The Admiral's expression remained neutral, but Taiho detected a subtle tension in his posture. "It seems we have an unexpected situation," Sun Wu announced. "Our deep space sensors have detected unauthorized vessels entering the system. They don't match Doran configurations." Taiho frowned. "We came alone." "Yes, we believe you did," Sun Wu agreed. "These appear to be Ravi vessels. Pirates, by their approach pattern." Pirates. The Ravi were notorious throughout the sector, a nomadic species that raided shipping lanes and unprotected colonies, but they typically avoided systems with significant military presence. "They must not realize we're here," Jiwu suggested. "The Doran Empire has a standing policy of eliminating Ravi raiders." Sun Wu nodded. "Yes, we're aware of your policies. However, as this is Earth's system, we would prefer to handle this situation ourselves. We've already dispatched defensive units." The audacity of the statement stunned Taiho. A Category D planet handling a Ravi raiding party. It would be suicide. The Ravi vessels, while not matching Doran technology, were still far beyond what Earth should possess. "Admiral, with all respect, you don't understand the threat. Even a small Ravi scout group carries enough firepower to—" An aide interrupted, handing Sun Wu a datapad. After glancing at it, the Admiral stood. "Perhaps you'd like to observe our response from our command center. It might answer some of your questions about Earth's capabilities." The command center was a model of efficiency. Dozens of humans monitored holographic displays showing the approaching Ravi vessels, 7 ships in attack formation. Earth operators calmly relayed orders while tracking the raiders' approach. "Defense grid activated," announced one operator. Shield generators at full capacity. Shield generators. Tahoe exchanged glances with Jiwoo. Even if humans had somehow developed shield technology, it would be primitive compared to the weapons the Ravi carried. Admiral, Tahoe said urgently, allow us to contact our ship. The sunlight can intercept the Ravi before they reach your planet. That won't be necessary, Sunwoo replied. Watch. On the main display, small objects detached from various points around Earth's orbit, objects that had been completely invisible to the Doran sensors until they moved. Interceptors deployed, reported an operator. Quantum shields engaged. Quantum shields. That technology was limited to the most advanced council races. Before Tahoe could process this revelation, the display showed the Earth vessels accelerating at speeds that should have crushed any human pilot. The Ravi detected the approaching threat and began evasive maneuvers, but they were clearly surprised by both the presence and capability of Earth's defenders. The human vessels moved with impossible agility, surrounding the raiders with coordinated precision. Target locked. Graviton disruptors ready, came another calm report. Graviton disruptors. Those weapons were theoretical even in Doran research labs. A series of concentrated energy beams lanced from the Earth vessels, not striking the Ravi ships directly but creating distortion fields around them. The raiders' shields failed instantly, and their engines sputtered and died. All Ravi vessels disabled, announced the operator. Boarding teams standing by. The entire engagement had lasted less than 5 minutes. Tahoe stood in stunned silence, his understanding of Earth completely shattered. These were not the actions of a primitive civilization, but of an advanced, spacefaring power with technology that rivaled or exceeded that of established galactic civilizations. Admiral Sunwoo turned to face the Doran commander, his expression now serious. Now perhaps we can have a more honest conversation about Earth's place in the galaxy, Commander Tahoe. Because clearly, your understanding of our capabilities requires significant revision. Commander Tahoe stood at the observation window of the Lunar Command Center, watching as the captured Ravi vessels were towed toward a massive structure that had suddenly appeared from behind the moon. The structure had been completely invisible until moments ago, when sections of it seemed to shimmer into existence like a mirage solidifying. What technology is that? He asked, unable to hide his astonishment. Some form of light-bending camouflage. Admiral Sunwoo stood beside him, hands clasped behind his back. Something similar. We call it phase shifting. The station exists slightly out of alignment with normal spacetime. It's there, but also not there, until we bring it into full phase. Jiwoo stepped closer to the window. That's impossible. The energy requirements alone would be enormous using conventional power sources. Sunwoo finished for her. Yes, we discovered that early in our research. Fortunately, we found alternatives. The Admiral turned to face the Doran delegation. I believe it's time we showed you what Earth has been working on, while the galaxy thought we were still figuring out rocket propulsion. Would you like a tour of our defensive systems? Tahoe nodded slowly. I think that would be educational. A sleek transport carried them from the lunar base to the phase-shifted station. As they approached, Tahoe noted the complete absence of the structure on his personal scanner until they crossed some invisible boundary, at which point alarms sounded on the device. Your scanner won't work properly here, Sunwoo explained. The phase differential disrupts most conventional scanning technologies. The transport docked with the station, and they entered a vast hangar bay where dozens of vessels unlike any Tahoe had seen before waited in organized rows. They resembled no conventional design philosophy, not the flowing curves of Doran ships, nor the angular precision of council vessels. Instead, they appeared almost organic, with hull materials that seemed to ripple slightly as if breathing. Our Phantom-class interceptors, Sunwoo said, noticing Tahoe's interest. Fully automated, though they can accommodate pilots when needed. The hull material adapts to energy weapons, absorbing and dispersing the impact. Adaptive materials of that sophistication are still theoretical in most of the galaxy, Jiwu remarked. Theory becomes practice with enough motivation, Sunwoo replied. And humanity has always been highly motivated by the prospect of visitors from the stars, not all of whom might be friendly. They continued through the station, passing laboratories where humans worked on technologies that made Tahoe increasingly uncomfortable. In one chamber, a team monitored what appeared to be a small star contained within nested force fields. Artificial quantum singularity, Sunwoo explained casually. Clean energy with minimal spatial footprint. We have 17 larger versions powering our defensive grid around Earth. In another section, technicians manipulated what seemed to be solid objects without touching them. Directed gravity manipulation, said Sunwoo. Useful for construction, medical procedures, and of course, weapons systems that can crush enemy vessels without damaging their technology or any survivors. Tahoe stopped walking. Admiral, I must be direct. What you're showing us exceeds the technological capabilities of many council races. Yet Earth has been classified as a primitive world with no significant defensive capabilities. This level of deception goes beyond caution. Sunwoo smiled slightly. Is it deception if we simply allowed others to underestimate us? We never claimed to be defenseless. The council never asked. But why? Pressed Jiwu. Why maintain the facade for so long? You could have joined the galactic community, established trade relations, shared technology, and been immediately recognized as a potential threat to be neutralized or controlled, Sunwoo countered. We've studied your history, Commander. How many emerging civilizations have been guided into roles that benefit established powers? How many promising species have been deliberately limited when their technology developed in concerning directions? Tahoe couldn't deny the accusation. The Council did indeed manage technological development among emerging civilizations, sometimes actively hindering progress in certain fields, particularly weaponry and dimensional manipulation. Their tour continued to a massive spherical chamber at the station's core. Inside, a complex network of devices surrounded a central platform where a shimmering, translucent object rotated slowly. This, said Sunwoo with evident pride, is the heart of Earth's defense system. We call it the temporal anchor. Tahoe stepped closer, fascinated despite his growing alarm. What does it do? It creates localized time distortions. We can accelerate or decelerate time in targeted areas, around an enemy vessel, for instance, or a specific weapon system. Imagine firing a missile only to have it encounter a field where time passes at 1,000th the normal rate, effectively freezing it in space, or accelerating time around an enemy's power core, added Jiwu, understanding immediately, causing it to age and fail in seconds rather than years. Precisely, Sunwoo nodded. We developed it originally to assist with space travel, but its defensive applications became obvious. Tahoe felt cold dread settling in his stomach. Temporal manipulation technology was strictly forbidden by the Council due to its catastrophic potential. Even the most advanced races approached it with extreme caution. And here was Earth, a supposedly primitive world, playing with the fabric of time itself. This technology goes far beyond defensive capabilities, Tahoe said quietly. You understand that the Council would consider this an existential threat to galactic stability. Which is exactly why we kept it hidden. Sunwoo replied, his voice equally soft. We didn't develop these technologies to conquer or threaten. Humanity has no expansionist agenda. We simply wanted to ensure that when we finally did make contact with the wider galaxy, we wouldn't be at anyone's mercy. A human technician approached and whispered something to Sunwoo. The Admiral's expression darkened. It seems our demonstration with the Ravi pirates has caused some concern. We're detecting multiple ships entering the system, Council vessels, not just Doran. Tahoe wasn't surprised. The energy signatures from Earth's weapons would have triggered monitoring systems throughout the sector. The Council would be sending investigators immediately. What happens now, Admiral? Tahoe asked. You've revealed capabilities that will frighten many powerful races. The Council won't simply ignore this. Sunwoo's expression remained calm, but Tahoe detected new resolve in his posture. Now, Commander, we negotiate from a position of strength rather than weakness. Earth is ready to join the galactic community, but as equals, not as subjects. Tahoe looked again at the temporal anchor, the impossibly advanced ships, the technologies that shouldn't exist on a world that had been dismissed as primitive. He realized that the galaxy's understanding of humanity was about to change forever, and with it, the balance of power that had remained stable for centuries. You've been preparing for this moment for generations, Tahoe said, not a question but a statement. Sunwoo nodded. Since we first realized we weren't alone. Welcome to the real Earth, Commander. The one that has always been hiding in plain sight. The Grand Council chamber on the Galactic Hub station hummed with tense energy. Representatives from 27 major species had assembled for an emergency session, something that hadn't occurred in over 60 years. At the center of the chamber, Commander Tahoe stood beside Admiral Sunwoo, both dwarfed by the massive holographic displays showing Earth's revealed technology. Elder Kyung, the ancient council leader whose species had been among the first to achieve interstellar travel, leaned forward from her elevated position. Her translucent skin revealed the slow pulse of her multiple hearts. This council has existed for 15,000 years, she said, her voice amplified throughout the chamber. In that time, we have welcomed hundreds of emerging civilizations into the galactic community. Never have we been so thoroughly deceived. Sunwoo stood calmly, unfazed by the accusation. With respect, Elder, Earth never deceived the Council. We simply allowed your assumptions to remain unchallenged. Semantics, thundered the Vril representative, his crystalline form flashing with angry red pulses. Your world deliberately concealed advanced weapons technology, temporal manipulation devices, and phase-shifting capabilities. These are not the actions of a peaceful civilization. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Tahoe watched the proceedings with growing concern. He had witnessed Earth's capabilities firsthand, but even he had not anticipated the level of alarm their revelation would cause among the Council races. If I may address the Council, Tahoe said, stepping forward. All eyes turned to him, many surprised that a Doran commander would speak in defense of Earth. I have personally inspected Earth's defensive systems. While their technology is indeed advanced, I saw no evidence of expansionist preparation or invasion capabilities. Their focus appears to be purely defensive. And why should that reassure us? Asked the Nari delegate, her feathered crest rising in agitation. A species that hides its true nature for generations cannot be trusted. How do we know what else they're concealing? Admiral Sunwoo nodded to a human aide, who activated a data crystal. New images appeared in the chamber's projection. Historical records of Earth's early detection of alien signals, their first observations of non-human spacecraft, and their subsequent debates about how to respond. We first realized we weren't alone approximately 120 years ago, Sunwoo explained. Our scientists detected anomalous signals that could only be artificial in origin. Rather than broadcasting our discovery, our leaders chose caution. The projection shifted to show humans monitoring communication arrays, building increasingly sophisticated detection systems, and eventually decoding alien transmissions. 40 years later, we had our first visual confirmation of extraterrestrial spacecraft in our system. Sunwoo continued. A Trilaxian scout ship, we later learned. It observed Earth briefly before departing. Again, we remained silent. Why? Asked Elder Kyung, her tone genuinely curious rather than accusatory. Because the transmissions we had decoded painted a concerning picture, Sunwoo replied. We learned about the category system, about how emerging worlds were sometimes guided into roles beneficial to established powers. We discovered historical instances of promising civilizations being deliberately restricted if their development threatened existing hierarchies. Uncomfortable silence fell across the chamber. These were aspects of galactic politics rarely discussed openly. Show them, Tahoe said quietly to Sunwoo. The admiral nodded, and the projection changed again. This time it displayed images that made many council members shift uneasily. Surveillance footage showing non-human visitors on Earth decades before official first contact. Some were clearly taking samples, others installing monitoring devices. "We've been watched for generations without our consent," Sun Wu stated flatly. 17 different species have sent covered observers to Earth, all while officially we remained undiscovered and primitive. Elder Kyung's expression darkened. "These unauthorized observations violate Council protocols." "Yet they happened regularly, with no consequences," Sun Wu replied. "So we adapted. We created a facade of normal development while establishing a separate, hidden technological path. We allowed your observers to see what they expected, a fractured planet slowly stumbling toward unity in space travel." A new set of images appeared, showing vast underground facilities beneath Earth's oceans and mountains. Meanwhile, we unified where it mattered. The brightest minds from all nations worked in secret on true technological advancement. When we detected your monitoring devices, we didn't destroy them. We fed them carefully curated information. The Loreth representative, a being composed of interconnected geometric shapes, floated forward. "This confirms our worst fears. You've been spying on council races for decades. Just as you have been spying on us," Sun Wu countered evenly. "The difference is that we learned from what we observed." The final set of images caused gasps among the assembled delegates. They showed hidden human observation posts disguised as debris or natural formations, positioned near major space lanes and even on the outskirts of populated systems. "You've been inside council space," exclaimed the Vril representative. "We've been gathering information to ensure our survival," Sun Wu corrected. "Information that proved our caution was warranted." He gestured, and a final document appeared. A classified council directive regarding first contact with Earth, dated 30 years earlier. It outlined plans to deliberately restrict human access to certain technologies and to guide Earth's development toward becoming a resource provider rather than a technological competitor. "This was never implemented because official first contact never occurred," Sun Wu said quietly. "But it confirmed our fears and justified our approach." Elder Kyung sighed, a sound like wind through ancient trees. "These are complex matters, Admiral. Yes, the Council manages technological development. We've seen too many young civilizations destroy themselves or others when they develop too quickly without the wisdom to match their power. Earth understands caution," Sun Wu replied. "That's why we spent generations preparing before revealing ourselves. We developed our technology slowly, tested it thoroughly, and built safeguards. We didn't rush to claim territory or resources beyond our system. We simply ensured we would never be helpless." Tahoe stepped forward again. "Having witnessed Earth's capabilities and approach, I believe the Doran Empire would support their acceptance into the Council as a full member, not as a protectorate." The chamber erupted in shocked discussion. For a Doran commander to suggest elevating a newly contacted world to full Council status was unprecedented. Elder Kyung raised her hand, silencing the chamber. "This revelation will require careful consideration. For now, Earth will be reclassified as a Category A civilization with appropriate diplomatic recognition. A delegation of technical experts will be permitted to assess Earth's technology for safety compliance." "We would welcome such assessment," Sun Wu agreed, provided it's conducted with mutual respect and transparency. As the session adjourned, Tahoe turned to Sun Wu. "The Council won't easily accept a new power of Earth's capability. There will be resistance, perhaps even threats." Sun Wu nodded. "We anticipated that. It's why we revealed ourselves only when our defenses were beyond question. The galaxy now knows that Earth can protect itself, and that changes everything." 6 months after Earth's dramatic revelation to the galactic community, Commander Tahoe stood on the observation deck of the newly established galactic embassy in orbit around Earth. The massive structure represented a compromise between human and Council architectural styles, with sweeping transparent sections that offered stunning views of the blue planet below. Beside him stood Admiral Sunwoo, now formally recognized as Earth's primary representative to the Galactic Council. Both men watched as vessels from a dozen different species approached the embassy for the first official technology exchange summit. "I remember when I first received this assignment," Tahoe said, breaking the comfortable silence. "I thought it was beneath me, making contact with a primitive world barely worth the Empire's attention." Sunwoo smiled slightly. "And now you're the Doran Empire's chief diplomat to what some are calling the next galactic superpower." "Life has a way of surprising us," Tahoe agreed, "though I don't think either of us expected the past 6 months to unfold as they have." The months following Earth's revelation had been turbulent. Several council races had pushed for sanctions against Earth for their deception, while others had immediately sought exclusive technology sharing agreements. Military vessels from various powers had taken up positions near the Sol system, ostensibly for observation, but clearly meant as intimidation. Earth had responded not with threats, but with a series of carefully calculated diplomatic moves. They had invited council inspectors to examine their defensive systems, while simultaneously demonstrating their full capabilities in a series of controlled exercises that left no doubt about their ability to protect themselves. Most crucially, they had shared selected technologies with council races, not their most advanced systems, but innovations that offered immediate benefits in medicine, sustainable energy, and environmental restoration. These good faith gestures had gradually shifted the balance of opinion in Earth's favor. "The Lorith delegation has just docked," reported Jinwoo, a young human diplomat who had joined Tahoe's staff as part of the new exchange program. "Their chief engineer is particularly interested in your gravity manipulation technology." Sunwoo nodded. "Escort them to Conference Room 3. We've prepared specialized demonstrations for their physiological requirements." As Jinwoo departed, Tahoe observed, "You've become quite skilled at galactic diplomacy for a species that supposedly had no contact with aliens until recently." "We had a long time to study the game before we had to play it," Sunwoo replied. "Watching how different species negotiate, what they value, how they express dominance or submission. It was an education in itself." A small alert chimed on Sunwoo's communication device. He checked it and frowned slightly. "Problem?" Tahoe asked. "Nothing unexpected. The Vril are still pushing for access to our temporal technology." Tahoe's scales rippled in concern. They've always been fascinated by temporal manipulation. Their history suggests they would use it, unwisely. "Which is precisely why they'll never get it," Sunwoo said firmly. "Earth may be new to the Council, but we understand the responsibility that comes with our technology. Some advancements will remain exclusively ours." They made their way to the central chamber where the summit would officially begin. Representatives from 23 species had gathered, their diverse forms creating a living tapestry of galactic diversity. Some floated in specially designed gravity fields, others stood on raised platforms, while a few were housed in environmental suits that allowed them to exist in Earth-standard atmosphere. Elder Kyung arrived last, her ancient form gliding effortlessly despite her age. The chamber quieted as she took her position at the center. "This summit marks a historic moment," she began, her voice carrying effortlessly. "For the first time, in 12,000 years, a civilization has joined the Council not as a developing world seeking guidance, but as a fully realized technological power." She gestured toward Sunwoo. Earth's path to this moment was unconventional, and yes, controversial. Some among us still harbor reservations about a world that concealed its true nature for so long. Murmurs of agreement came from several delegates. Yet in the months since their revelation, the humans have demonstrated not only remarkable technological achievement, but wisdom in how they manage that power. They have chosen to share rather than hoard, to engage rather than isolate, to listen before speaking. Elder Kyung turned slowly, addressing the entire assembly. "Perhaps there is something all of us, even the oldest civilizations, can learn from Earth's approach. They developed in secret not out of aggression but caution. They armed themselves not to conquer but to ensure they would never be conquered. They studied us before revealing themselves, something few of us can claim to have done before making first contact. Tahoe watched as her words visibly affected the delegates. Even the most skeptical seemed to be considering this perspective. Today we begin a new chapter, Elder Kyung continued. One where Earth takes its place among the stellar nations, not as a newcomer to be guided, but as a power to be respected and a partner to be valued. The summit proceeded with remarkable smoothness. Technology exchange protocols were established, research partnerships formed, and trade agreements negotiated. Tahoe found himself increasingly impressed by the humans' diplomatic skill. They knew when to stand firm and when to compromise, when to showcase strength and when to demonstrate humility. Later, as the day's formal proceedings concluded, Tahoe found Sunwoo alone on one of the embassy's garden terraces, looking out at Earth. "Your people have adapted to galactic politics with remarkable speed," Tahoe observed. "We've had good teachers," Sunwoo replied, nodding toward Tahoe. "Your guidance has been invaluable. I provided information. Your people determined how to use it." Tahoe moved to stand beside the human admiral. "There's a new saying spreading through diplomatic circles. Watch the quiet ones. It refers to Earth, of course." Sunwoo laughed softly. "I've heard it. Along with the most dangerous predator is the one you never notice until it's too late." "Are you dangerous, Admiral?" "Is Earth?" Tahoe asked, his tone serious despite the casual setting. Sunwoo considered this for a moment. "To those who would threaten us? Absolutely. To our allies and partners? Never. Earth developed in secret because we had to, but that's not our preferred path forward." He gestured toward the stars becoming visible as the embassy rotated into Earth's shadow. "We've spent generations looking up at those stars, wondering who was out there. Now we know. And while our first instinct was caution, our deepest hope has always been connection." Tahoe nodded slowly. "I believe you. Not all in the council do, not yet, but they will come to understand in time." "Time," Sunwoo echoed. "Something humans have learned to appreciate. We may seem impatient in small matters, but in the important things, like finding our place in the galaxy, we've shown we can play the long game." As more delegates joined them on the terrace, Tahoe reflected on how completely his understanding of humans had transformed. 6 months ago, he had dismissed Earth as primitive and inconsequential. Now he recognized them as perhaps the most fascinating species he had encountered in his long career. Outwardly simple, yet containing hidden depths that continually surprised. Earth's reputation had changed forever. No longer the defenseless world of council records, it had emerged as a power shaped by patience, caution, and remarkable ingenuity. And the galaxy, Tahoe knew, would never be quite the same again.